Diving into two critical global issues, the historic UN declaration recognizing the transatlantic slave trade as a crime against humanity and the escalating conflict between the United States, Israel, and Iran. Now, the United Nations General Assembly has overwhelmingly voted to recognize the transatlantic slave trade as the gravest crime against humanity, with 123 member states supporting the resolution. Ghana introduced the resolution calling for repatriations and apologies from countries involved in the slave trade. AIG's Marcelina Ozokome put together this report.
The resolution acknowledges the lasting impact of slavery, including racial inequalities and underdevelopment affecting Africans and people of African descent worldwide. The resolution was opposed by Argentina, Israel, and the US, while 52 countries, including Britain, Portugal, and Spain, abstained from voting. Nigeria and other African countries voted in support of the resolution. Ghana's President John Mahama described the resolution as historic and a safeguard against forgetting the atrocities of the slave trade.
I speak these words today not only for Ghana, but also in solidarity with the rest of Africa, the Caribbean, Latin America, and the wider diaspora, and indeed all people of good conscience throughout the world. There's no such thing as a slave. There were human beings who were trafficked and then enslaved by people who believed they could own those human beings as chattels, as their personal property. The entire transatlantic slave trade was designed to deny African people their humanity.
The resolution emphasizes the importance of addressing historical wrongs and promoting justice, human rights, and dignity for Africans and people of African descent. It also calls for the return of cultural artifacts stolen during the colonial era to their countries of origin. Ghana also asked UN members involved to consider apologizing for the slave trade and asked for reparations funds that will be used to repair the damage caused by the slave trade. The transatlantic slave trade represents one of the darkest chapters in human history, marked by the systematic exploitation, displacement, and dehumanization of millions of Africans. An estimated 15 million Africans were forcibly transported across the Atlantic between the 15th and 19th centuries. Many died during the Middle Passage, while survivors were subjected to forced labor and systematic abuse in the West. The resolution noted that the impact of slavery persists in the form of racial inequalities and underdevelopment, affecting Africans and people of African descent in all parts of the world. Mahama earlier spoke ahead of the vote on behalf of the 54-member African group, the largest regional bloc at the UN. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres and UN General Assembly President Annalena Baerbock called for confronting slavery's lasting legacies of inequality and racism. Guterres and Baerbock urged countries to drive action to eradicate systematic racism, ensure reparatory justice, and accelerate inclusive development, marked by equal access to education, health, employment, housing, and a safe environment. Speaking on why the U.S. voted against the resolution, the U.S. representative to the UN Economic and Social Council, Dan Negrier, said the U.S. does not recognize a legal right to reparations for historical wrongs that were not illegal under international law at the time they occurred.
Now joining us from Accra, Ghana is Honorable Cletus Saidu Depila. He's a Member of Parliament for Jirapa and also the Vice Chairman, Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration in the Parliament. He will help us to analyze some of the conditions outlined by Ghana's President John Mahama after the UN vote to declare the transatlantic slave trade crime against humanity. Thanks for joining us, Honorable.
Thank you, my sister.
Yes. Now, this must be historic, right?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I said this must be historic, right?
Yes, very historic.
Okay.
First and foremost, let me say a good afternoon, good evening to you and your distinguished viewers, to the good people of Nigeria, Ghana, and the entire world watching us this evening.
Okay.
First and foremost, let's applaud the President of Ghana, President John Dramani Mahama, and his Foreign Affairs Minister, and the team of men and women who worked tirelessly to get this historic resolution adopted at the UN on the 25th of March 2026.
Okay.
It is historic because if you look at it, many historians, many sons and daughters of African descent have tried. They've written several petitions, several memos. Even far back 1996, we had the Accra Declaration, where our former President Jerry John Rawlings, also talked about the fact that Africa deserves reparation from this trans-slave trade, which he considered as one of the gravest crime against humanity, and that Africa needs to be compensated.
Yes.
So it is only right for the entire African descent.
Okay, now the resolution. Oh, yes, Honorable. Yeah. You see, the resolution calls for repatriations and apologies from countries involved in the slave trade. Do you think this will happen? If not, what step can African countries take to ensure that this happens?
Well, first and foremost, we are equally calling for a reparation commission.
Yes.
To be, commissioned at the UN, for us to have a platform that will give us the platform to be able to lobby. So we are talking about creation of reparation commission to enable Africa negotiate for what is due Africans, particularly those that were affected by this inhumane trade. So once we push for the commission to be constituted, then that will give us a platform to be able to lobby or negotiate for the other things that we want to happen. Like, first and foremost, it's just not it's the aim. The aim is just not, it aren't just for handout for governments, but to create measures for victims, to give a concrete platform for victims and their descendants to be appreciated. First and foremost, we are calling for a formal acknowledgement and an apology from the states that, did this crime. The states that are involved. We are calling for them to formally apologize.
Yes.
Many have also said that crime has no, at that time it wasn't a crime. But it was a crime. People lost their lives. People lost their jobs. People were, malhandled, tortured, So you cannot say that if somebody was malhandled many years or centuries ago, it can be a crime. It is still a crime. Crime has no expiry date.
Okay, so we are setting up, you said Ghana is setting up a committee for repatriation?
Yes, we are pushing. We are not setting it.
Okay.
Once we got the resolution adopted, now what we are looking at is to push for a commission for reparation to be constituted or created at the UN. And that will give Africans the platform to be able to negotiate for all the things that we are demanded from the countries that perpetuated this, heinous crime.
Okay. Now, Honorable Saidu, you know that the United States opposed the resolution, citing lack of legal basis for repatriations. What's your take on that?
Well, my take on this matter is that, first and foremost, we equally know that very well. But you see, morally and diplomatically, once the accepted the resolution. It means that we have grounds to now talk about what we expect from the countries that committed the crime.
Yes.
Morally and diplomatically.
Yes.
If the entire world admit that it was a crime against Africans, and for that matter, what we are pushing for, we got other countries to support us in passing or in getting victory to this resolution. So it tells you that morally and diplomatically, we will push and get the support of many, many independent voices that will speak for Africa.
Okay, now this opposition.
So we know.
Okay, now this opposition, from the United States, is it going to in any way affect the relations between Ghana?
No, it doesn't have to.
Okay.
I don't see how this will affect the relationship between Ghana and other countries. In fact, it is just not about Ghana. It's about Africa.
Yes.
It's about Africa.
Yes.
It's just not about Ghana, except to say that a Ghanaian president championed it and got the resolution adopted.
Yes.
But he did not just speak about Ghana. He spoke for the entire continent. So people shouldn't be, I don't see how the entire world will want to have a problem with Africa because we are demanding for something that we think is not right. You understand?
Yes.
You see, reconciliation, this more or less is some sort of reconciliation. If somebody did something to you and openly acknowledge that I did
take
you
responsibility
wrong, and take responsibility, then you forgive the person, that in itself, you are self-satisfied.
Yes.
It's just not the money. It's not monetary benefits.
Yes.
But the fact that the person agreed that or accept that, look, we didn't behave well. We didn't think through about this whole thing. The idea was so barbaric.
Yes.
Africans, forgive us. It will not happen again. We are all the same. We are all from the same God. God created all of us. We may not be the same. Some will be black, some are white, some are taller, some are slimmer, and all of that.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean that we are different.
Okay.
So if they admit that, look, because of what happened, because of these atrocities that we meted to our friends in Africa, we are sorry and we are ready for talks. We are ready to apologize, or we want to render an unqualified apology. It's fine. That in itself is self-satisfactory.
Okay. Thank you so much, Honorable Cletus Saidu Depila, for joining us on the program for today. We do appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to your distinguished viewers.
Okay, thank you for still staying with us. Moving ahead now. Okay, let's move to the war in the Middle East. Pakistan has offered to host high-level talks this weekend between the United States and Iran, where the United States, J.D. Vance, and Iranian officials have been told, widely cited as Mohammed Bagher Ghalaba, are expected in Islamabad. And let's hear more on the conflict from AIT's John Paul Madaki.
U.S.-Israel-Iran conflict enters its third week. Uncertainty continues to surround the possibility of negotiations. U.S. President Donald Trump maintains that strong talks are underway, but Iran has denied this claim. What appears to be happening is a mix of both, with messages being exchanged largely through indirect channels and mediators. Several countries, including Pakistan, Egypt, and Turkey, are now playing key roles in mediation efforts. Pakistan has even offered to host high-level talks. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif says his country is ready to facilitate what he describes as conclusive discussions between the United States and Iran. In the meantime, Pakistan's Army Chief, Field Marshal Saeed Asim Munir, is emerging as a significant intermediary in the process. On the diplomatic front, The United States has reportedly presented a 15-point proposal to Iran. The plan outlined steps to address concerns over Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile programs, as well as maritime security in the Strait of Hormuz. However, Iran has rejected the proposal, instead putting forward 5 conditions for a ceasefire. These include an immediate halt to attacks and targeted killings, guarantees to prevent future conflicts, compensation for damages, and recognition of Iran's authority over the Strait of Hormuz. Turkey is also actively involved, serving as a channel for communication between Tehran and Washington. Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan has been engaging with both Iranian and US officials in an effort to ease tensions. Similarly, Egypt is intensifying its diplomatic outreach. Its foreign minister has held talks with counterparts in Iran, Pakistan, Qatar, and the United States, aiming to secure a temporary ceasefire and create room for structured negotiations. Meanwhile, the global economic impact of the conflict is being felt in Nigeria. Rising oil prices continue to drive up the cost of petrol, which is currently selling between 1,200 naira and 1,500 naira per litre.
Thanks for still staying with us. And in this week, the European Commission Vice President Kaja Kallas recently visited Nigeria, marking a significant step in strengthening EU-Nigeria relations. During her visit, she met with Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tuga, and discussed areas of cooperation, including security, trade, and critical raw materials. I was at that meeting. Take a listen. The European Commission Vice President Kaja Kallas recently visited Nigeria, making a significant step in strengthening EU-Nigeria relations. During her visit, she met with Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuga, and discussed areas of cooperation including security, trade, and critical raw materials. The EU aims to diversify its sources of critical raw materials, particularly for minerals needed for electric vehicle batteries, solar panels, and digital technologies.
Today, we move forward with new projects in digital, agriculture, health, worth 66 million euros of grants and 221 million euros in low-interest loans. We also look forward to negotiating with Nigeria a science, technology, and innovation agreement under the Horizon Europe program. And all this is a win for Nigeria, but it's also a win for the European Union.
We will continue working together to expand trade and investment beyond hydrocarbons, unlocking the potential of agriculture, manufacturing, and digital innovation to create jobs and prosperity for our people. Nigeria is determined to translate today's commitments into tangible outcomes that improve lives, strengthen democracy, and secure a sustainable future for generations to come.
In a separate meeting, the EU also announced 290 million euros investment in digitalization, health, agriculture, and migration management. This initiative is part of the EU's Global Gateway strategy.
This financing is provided under the Human Development Accelerator Program, an initiative backed by the European Commission and implemented by the European Investment Bank in partnership with the Gates Foundation. We're also very happy to announce another important financing agreement with the Bank of Industry for the development of agricultural value chains in Nigeria.
This announcement is more than a commitment of resources. It is a reaffirmation of our shared vision for a stronger, more resilient, and more prosperous future. It reflects our collective determination to move from dialogue to delivery.
The EU and Nigeria also agreed to explore cooperation on critical raw materials investment, trade, and cybersecurity. The funding will support private sector companies, cooperatives, and MSMEs across key agricultural value chains with a focus on cocoa and dairy production.
Digital, health, and agriculture stand out in this respect as we join forces to improve standards skills, infrastructure, local manufacturing, and inclusion. Today, we are also committing to stronger cooperation on sustainable migration, and more support is already becoming available in this area, enhancing governance and providing better life options to voluntary returnees.
The EIB has invested 2.3 billion euros in Nigeria since 1978, supporting transformative projects in sustainable urban transport. The visit reflects the EU's growing commitment to Nigeria and West Africa, focusing on strategic partnerships, security, and economic cooperation. Well, that's our package on global matters for today. Do keep a date with us next Friday. I am Sadiat Dusmu.
I want to share a story around the Recycle Space educational project. This project started far back, I think 2018 December, and it came out of the desire to provide solution to children that are out of school in terms of trying to find an alternative for us to ensure that they stay in school to learn.
As the saying goes, education is the best legacy. It is the desire of every parent to give quality and acceptable education to their words. However, the inequality of life and the systemic poverty level in our society have made it difficult for some to pay their words school fees.
The Recycle Space educational project came out of the desire to provide solution, out of the desire to meet a need.
The reason schools have encouraged and engaged the underprivileged in collection of plastic waste in